Hello and welcome back to a special spooky edition of Umineko. Spooky for us, not for you.
Yeah, I don't think we're gonna be posting this on Halloween,
Yeah, no. It is
but it is what
currently
it is.
Halloween for us. Um and since this is not a face cam channel, I am in full costume. Or I'm
Yeah,
not. It depends. You believe what you want.
so am I.
Yeah, exactly.
Both possibilities exist because
Actually,
you
hold
don't
on.
know. This is exactly the point of Umineko as well.
Exactly. We are ready. This is a special spooky season of Umineko where we're fucking ready to go and party and shit. And I get to do my stupid George voice for increasingly serious situations. We'll see how his voice evolves. Let's see if I turn it into something different. We'll see how his voice evolves. All right. Are you ready?
Yeah.
Hell yeah. Oh god, hold on. Me fixing up my setup because I do this weird. All right. After all that excitement the previous night, there was no way anyone was going to wake up early. George Aniki, Jessica, and I were snoring loudly on the beds in the cousins' rooms. But Maria, who had gone straight to bed without joining in, was completely awake. As she rubbed her sleepy
Ta, ta,
eyes
ta,
and
ta,
looked
ta,
around.
ta, ta, ta. Oh, I was reading that out.
Alright, cool. As she rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked around, she was met. Sorry, my TV turned on by itself, so now I have an old white man staring at me.
I don't know why, but I immediately just imagined Walter White.
I wish it was Walter White. At least then he'd be an acclaimed. Ah, fuck! Hold on.
One of
My
my
remote,
friends went.
my my
Oh,
remote to my big TV also goes to the small TV I'm using as a second screen. So I'm like, so when I turned off my big TV, it instantly turned off the other TV I'm using. So everything went black for a bit for me.
yep.
Oh, all right, now, all right. Can you still see it?
Yeah.
All right.
What I was just saying, one of my friends went to work as trans Jesse Pinkman today.
Hell yeah. Is there any other Jesse Pinkman?
No, he's got T-boy swag and T-girl swag.
He so
That's
does. I've not
that's
seen
literally all you
Breaking
need.
Bad. I've not seen Breaking Bad, but I've seen some of his fits, and absolutely.
Oh yeah.
The convention I went with Toby and Danny, uh, there was a panel we went to called Omegaverse 101, hosted by Mr. White. This person just
If
in
he didn't teach chemistry class.
is a person in a Mr. White cosplay, a Walter White cosplay, with booty shorts actually.
I love that. I know someone who cosplayed Battler with booty shorts because it was just way too hot to wear the suit.
Oh, absolutely. Also, Battler would 100% wear booty shorts. You
It
know
was
what?
just Battler with in his suit, but the pants were cropped.
You know how in 80s horror there's always the guy in booty shorts and a crop top? That's
Oh
Battler.
yeah.
Also, we should bring
hmm
that back. That should be a current fashion trend as well.
hmm
Peak peak fashion. As she rubbed her sleepy eyes and looked around, she was met with the loud snoring of the other three cousins. For a while, Maria, Maria had to think about what had happened. After that, she realized that her mother wasn't with her, and she quickly got lonely. Maria left the cousin's room, trying to head to the room that had been arranged for her and her mother. Paying no heed to the three who were sleeping soundly, she slammed the door shut. In response, Battler mumbled and rolled over in his sleep, but it wasn't enough to wake him. After a while, Maria returned once again. Maria returned once again, opening the door with a lively bang.
Mm.
When she had left the room, her face had been sleepy, but now that she was back, she looked irritated. Fuck, that's a mood.
Yeah.
After that, she climbed up on Battler's bed, which had happened to be the closest, and started yelling and jumping on it like it was a trampoline.
Mm. Wake up. Mm.
Ah, why? An enemy raid! Surround them! After making sure I was awake, Maria moved over to George Aniki's bed and started jumping on that too. Why was that Battler's first? Does Battler have wartime PTSD? Has
Sometimes it's really startling to be woken up.
Has Battler seen active combat?
I don't think so. But hey, maybe.
No, don't say the character I think you're going to, because I'm planning on making that joke when we see him.
I
Don't spoil.
remember that.
Don't spoil the joke.
I'm not going to. It's. I wasn't actually going to spoil it anyways, but
Okay.
I realized what I was going to say was also a bit of a spoiler. So
A story spoiler instead of a joke spoiler.
yeah.
By the way, have you just been having like a tab on all the texts I've been sending you for between of the first two episodes? Just
Yeah.
open. Have you? Oh
Well,
my.
on even just like meta stuff.
Uh,
It's called Eliza. Oh, I sorry, I didn't mean to dox you.
no,
Um,
no. My name.
it's
They know my
it's
name.
called okay. It's called Eliza Umineko receipts.
Oh my god, send them to me.
You've seen them.
I mean, yeah, but send them to me so I also have them.
Okay, I'll do that right now.
Because I'm assuming you just took screenshots of everything, whether or not, just
Oh
so you.
no,
Huh?
not everything. Just the interesting stuff.
Interesting stuff, whether or not it be true, notwithstanding. Or, or is
Yeah.
everything, all of it, just like you are completely wrong?
Oh no, it's just a lot of it's just the interesting stuff.
Okay. Then send it to me so I can also read out some of my first reactions throughout this.
Okay.
Miriam moved over to George Anaki's bed and started jumping on that too. In that manner, the three of us were all greeted with an extremely pleasant awakening. Oh, I just got just got them. Just looking at the. Oh my god, there's so many. Okay. This one. All right, the first one Rena sent is me thirsting after Kyrie.
No, it was well. No, it wasn't. It was. Oh, yeah, part of it was.
Yeah. Like, I'm just gonna like go through some of them. Other ones I'm pretty sure we already commented about when it happened.
Hmm.
Um. Oh, when I first saw Battler, I made fun of him, but then he showed that he's an ally to the working class, and I was like, Battler, I'm so sorry. um. Oh, this is like right near the beginning. Rosa's the only one of the siblings I kind of like, and it's only because we haven't been shown much to form an opinion of her other than her love of Maria. And then that incredibly heavy scene happens. That this is my response when we first saw the epitaph. That's the riddle. I don't know. Seems pretty straightforward to me. All right, and then all this other. Okay, and then all the other ones are from episode 2. Oh my. Oh my god, this one comment I said about how I think that both George and not George, Battler and Jessica are both better for Shannon than George is.
I remember that one.
Yeah. Man, I'm just looking at some of these. Okay, I read the ones that like made sense currently. All
That's
right.
all you're getting.
Yeah, that's all I'm getting. Thanks for waking us up, Maria-chan. You stopped us from sleeping in after that late night. If only you could have been a bit more gentle about it. Towards Nissan, you really are an adult. I respect that. He'll be 7 soon. Well, it's not really a bad time to wake up. Speak for yourself!
Yeah.
If I wake up before 10, it's gonna be a bad day for me. I stay up late. I wake up late, stay up late. That's my sleep schedule.
What do you mean by you stay up late?
I do my best to stay up late, but sometimes I'm just sleepy.
Yeah, but what do you mean? Like, how late do you stay up?
There's been a lot of times it's 2, 3 in the morning.
Sheesh, I always think you go to bed earlier.
It depends on the day. It depends on how sleepy I am.
Mm.
I have the luxury of being unemployed, meaning I can sleep whenever.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have to worry about waking up early to get to a job. That was an actual yawn. Method acting.
Mama's not here. Mm.
Aunt Rosa, she wasn't in her room. I wonder if she's already woken up and gone to the mansion.
Not here. Mm. Mm. Mama. Mm.
What do you think will be better for serious situations? Keeping my stoner voice or doing my terrible Skeletor impression for George?
Mm. I like the consistency of the stoner voice, honestly.
Okay. Maria kept growing ooh ooh and looked unhappy. She didn't she didn't exactly seem lonely because her mother wasn't around. It was more like she was irritated and thrown off balance because her mother wasn't where she expected. This girl's so autistic. She,
Yeah,
autistic
we've all
icon.
been saying this.
The moment I met her, I was just like, she's autistic.
To be fair, a lot of the people in this family are.
Yeah. If we could just tell her where her mother was, that alone would probably calm her down. But unfortunately, we had no way of knowing where Aunt Rosa was, except that she wasn't here. Anyway, it's time for breakfast, so let's head over to the mansion. That's right. Maria, let's go to the mansion together, okay? I'm sure Aunt Rosa will be there too.
Mama's in the mansion. Then I'll go there.
Yeah, I guess we should go to the mansion. Our parents have probably already gone there. Maria regained her usual composure so completely. Her earlier tantrum now seemed like a lie. We got dressed, left the room, and headed for the mansion. Once more, there was a knocking sound on the study door, but there was no answer. Oh, this is the scene I'm thinking of. This is actually really nice. I like this. If this is the scene I'm thinking of. Because if it is, it's the one time Kinzo is shown to have some sort of empathy for people.
I think I know. I think I'm pretty sure what you're talking about.
He seemed to be sleeping still, and I could not wake him. She went back downstairs and said something like that. Ava would probably be amused and triumphant. And even putting Ava aside, it was problematic that Kinzo had stayed shut away during this entire once-a-year conference, not even coming down to greet anyone. Even the family head, no, especially the family head, couldn't fail to make an appearance. I wonder if I can convince them myself. Natsui readied herself and used the key that she'd borrowed from Genji to open the door. Kinzo's like furiously and frantically trying to pull up his pants. Whoa! Whoa! Kinzo, what the fuck?
You said that in Battler voice, as if Battler caught him. Of course, Genji's there.
He's not even doing anything. He's just standing there. Like not even with an eye. It's not even like Kinzo staring at him. He's just there, like holding holding some the glass of absinthe for him. He's a professional through and through. That that Genji. Even though she was prepared for the sweet stench, which seemed to eat into one's brain as it poured out the small crack in the door, she couldn't help but grimace. Thinking that he might still be sleeping, Natsui entered the room quietly. Well, welcome. When she did, Kinzo was already awake and looking down out of the window. So you're awake. Good morning.
How did you get in?
Kinzo spoke back with his back. Kinzo spoke with his back still facing her. His voice was not harsh, but calm, and Natsuhi was slightly reassured. However, though he was awake, he wouldn't have ignored all that knocking if he was in a good mood. Natsui wasn't able to relax. My sincere apologies. I asked Kenji-san, and he allowed me to borrow the key to the study.
Oh, Genji did? If my friend thought it was that important, then I have no choice but to listen. So, what business do you have with me?
Well, breakfast will be ready soon, and I would greatly appreciate it if you would join us.
I will eat here. Have it brought here like always.
Father, this family conference happens only once a year. Please, at least let them see your face.
Go back downstairs. Are you asking me to join in as they discuss how to chew up my inheritance after I die? How foolish. Let them speak of such matters as they please without me. And if that's what you call a family conference, it's hardly worth leaving my room for it. I am busy. Do not bother me.
Sorry, I looked at his cape and tie. It really threw me off how it's done. Like, with the tie going over the cape clasp.
It's pretty odd.
Yeah. Anyway, his last words carried the threat that any further questions would not be appreciated. Wait. His last words carry the threat that any further questions would be not be appreciated. Natsuhi realized that adding any further pleas would finally bring his wrath down upon her. She didn't look forward to facing Ava's sarcasm, but there was nothing more Natsuhi could do. If that's so, understood. I am sure everyone will be sorry to hear it, but I will tell them. Natsui decided to give up. I really hope my Natsuhi voice is consistently getting picked up by the mic. Bowing slightly, she tried to leave the room before Kenzo's spasmodic temper could flare up. As she did, Kenzo spoke to her. His voice was so calm and gentle, it felt like it came from an entirely different person.
Natsuhi, it has been quite some time since you married into the Ushiromiya family.
Yes, it has been many years since I was first permitted to bear the name Ushiromiya.
I'm trying to make the voice calmer and gentler, but it's a little difficult.
Yeah, it's Kinzo. Like calm and gentle, I think, are relative.
Yeah. Do you sometimes long for your previous family?
No, marriage means abandoning your birth family. I am Uchiromiya Natsuhi. The
What the
Uchiromiya.
fuck?
I'm assuming that's like common with Japanese cultures, because like
Mm,
even with Western cultures that exists to an extent. With
I was also thinking like 1980s. I mean,
mhm,
yeah, very and like very traditional rich people.
yeah, it's yeah, especially with like that's long since mostly gone away with at least Western. I'm not sure how common that thought is in Eastern cultures, specifically Japan. Um, but like we do have the crumb of women leaving the family they were born into once married. We do have like the crumb of that with like um the maid giving like the maiden name, like the idea of taking your husband's last name and all that jazz.
Yeah, it's
It
pretty different in my culture, but
yeah.
um, yeah, I'm more used to like the idea of both families kind of joining together.
Yeah. The Yushiromiya family is the only family I can come home to. The only one I'm fond of. She truly wasn't exaggerating. Such was the resolve she felt whenever she applied the Uchiromiya family name to herself. And that's precisely why she was so saddened when her husband didn't treat her like an Uchiromiya, leaving her to race about in vain.
Yeah, I was just gonna say like, what the fuck? They like they're so mean to you.
Yeah, Natsui deserves
How
so
do you
much
not?
better.
How do you not? How do you not like feel a little bit hesitant about that?
Maybe her birth family was fucking awful.
Yeah, like maybe they're even worse.
Yeah, somehow even worse than Kinzo.
Well, maybe she has to worry about some other people more than Kinzo.
Yeah. Anyway, go on.
If Kraus were a woman and you his husband, no, I won't say that.
What do you mean by that? Father? Natsui was shocked. If Kinzo's words just now were what they seemed, it would have been more than enough to make up for all she'd suffered up to that point.
Forget it. It's just the nonsense of an old man.
Kinzo once again faced away from her. He told her to forget it, but Natsui couldn't help feeling a warmth in her heart. Father, even though I, Natsui, am not connected to you by blood, I am still your daughter. I will most assuredly see to it that your honor and glory and everything you have left behind are protected.
You do not have the right to wear the one-winged eagle. However, the one-winged eagle is surely engraved in your heart. That is irrefutable proof that you were my blood relative, one who will inherit the glory of the Ushiromiya family. Some will sneer that there is no eagle on your clothes, but such words are not worth lending an ear to. Only those who hold the eagle in their hearts are my true blood relatives. I now consider it an honor that you were welcomed into the Ushiromiya family.
Without saying anything more, Kinzo remained with his back to Natsuhi. However, Natsui couldn't help but feel something warm well up inside her that she hadn't felt since long ago, when she had just been a child. Natsui bowed silently to his back and left the room.
Ah, good timing. How is father? You were taking so long, so I came to check.
When Natsuhi left the study, she saw Ava climbing the stairs, and their eyes met. Ava was smirking unpleasantly, thinking that Natsuhi would leave grudgingly after failing to convince Kenzo. However, the way Natsuhi was now, such a frivolous laugh would not disturb her. She was not permitted to wear the family crest on her clothing, but she was permitted to wear it in her heart. So she spoke calmly, clearly, and confidently, with the dignity of the one who would protect the Ushiromiya family's glory. Father said he would not join in on the family conference. He says he has no interest in discussing such obscene matters.
I figured you'd say something like that. If you failed to persuade father, just say so.
How pitiful. I'm beginning to see why father lamented so. Shit!
What do you mean by that?
Fuck yeah, Natsuhi! Natsuhi did not answer. As Kinzo had done earlier, she showed Ava her back as she headed down the stairs. Ava finally realized that she was being made fun of, and something had happened to quickly bolster Natsuhi's confidence. Even so, she apparently didn't have the courage to risk Kinzo's wrath. Unable to even knock on the door, she could only click her tongue, make a motion as though scratching at it, and follow after Natsuhi.
S- So, were Anissa and the rest there? Did you ask father about them?
I didn't get a chance to ask, but they were not inside the study. Father would never let them into his room to discuss such a lowly topic, so it is unlikely he knows. Oh god! Sorry, there's like something like in my throat, I guess, and that made me choke a bit.
Ah,
Sorry, that sounded like I was fucking dying. Father would never let them into his room to discuss such a lowly topic, so it is unlikely he knows where they went. Let us go downstairs and wait for the servants to return from their search. Breakfast may be late, but how would you like some tea, Ava-san?
that would be fine.
Ava couldn't hide her confusion at the complete difference in Natsuhi's attitude. She was acting so boldly, and while Ava hated to admit it, she even had a sense of dignity about her. Unable to find fault with anything, Ava could only follow Natsui back to the parlor. When the two of them returned to the parlor, Hideyoshi had been joined by the four children and Nanjo. Genji, who had been talking with Hideyoshi, reported the current situation when he noticed that Natsui had returned. You still have not found my husband and the rest? Yes, my apologies. Also, Kumasawa has started preparing breakfast. She said that she would just need a little longer. The clock read a little past 8 o'clock. 8 should have been the time to start breakfast. Normally, going over that time limit would be a disgrace to the host. Cannon is now searching outside. Also, no one has seen Shannon either. Even Shannon's missing. Truly, just how many people did my husband bring with him on his little walk? Just how many people had gone missing by now? Now that the number was this large, it was starting to feel truly unpleasant. As though the people here were the only ones being left out of something interesting. At least, that seemed to reflect the feelings of the children, and Maria in particular. She was indignant, her stomach grumbling, almost as though her mother and the others had left her alone to go off and eat something delicious without her. The other children were flipping through the channels on the television, trying to find a program that might interest Maria and cheer her up again. Nanja was sitting on the sofa, gazing blissfully at the children while reading a book. It must have been a book about chess. The sound of footsteps came rushing towards them with a pitter-patter. There was only one set, so he realized before seeing who it belonged to that it was probably Cannon, not Krauts and the rest.
Madam, excuse me.
Judging by appearance, you still haven't been able to find them.
My apologies. I still haven't.
That will be enough. You've worked hard. She didn't know where they were, but they had to be somewhere on this island. They hadn't had a thing to eat since the previous night, so their stomachs must be growling about now. They'd probably come plodding back of their own accord before long. By now, Natsui was thoroughly exasperated and started to feel that there was no reason for them to go out of their way in search. I will go to the kitchen to prepare some tea for all the guests. Thank, thanks to both of you for all your hard work so early in the morning. Do you see just how much nicer Natsuhi is just by being treated with respect once?
Yeah.
Ugh, my heart breaks for her. Natsuhi left the parlor, acting as though the release intention had caused a new surge in her headache. Cannon tried to call Cannon tried to call to her back, but Natsuhi left swiftly. What is it? Was there something else?
Yes. I wasn't able to find her husband or anyone else, but, well,
Cannon sounded evasive. It looked as though he didn't know where they were, but had spotted something that might be connected to their disappearance. Eva and Hideyoshi noticed this exchange of words and came over. They'd probably picked up on something strange in Cannon's behavior. What's going on, Cannon-kun? Did you find Grouse and Yusun and everyone else?
actually, the Rose Garden storehouse looked strange.
What do you mean? It looked strange.
It was, how should I explain it?
Cannon hesitated once more. His tone wasn't at all what you'd expect from this usually fearless boy. Seeing this, Eva and Hideyoshi looked at each other dubiously.
What do you mean? Are you saying Nisan and the others were inside the storehouse? No. I'm going to inspect the inside now. I just now came back to get the key, but, um,
I don't really get it, but it sounds like we just gotta look around inside it. Where's the key to that storehouse?
it is in the servant room. Let us check inside the storehouse at once.
Cannon dashed off to the servant room and returned with the key. Genji left the parlor, saying that he would go check, but then Eva and Hideyoshi followed after him. What was this something strange about the storehouse that had caused the usually fearless Cannon to hesitate? It was still pouring outside, but perhaps their curiosity over this something that Cannon couldn't talk about had won out. While the children made a big fuss watching television, Cannon and the rest dashed over to the entrance. The Rose Garden storehouse was a place that housed various tools used to manage the garden. It was definitely not a pretty building. Because of its appearance, it had been built so that it was hidden in a corner of the rose garden. Cannon, Genji, Eva, and Hideyoshi came cutting across the rose garden holding umbrellas. They entered a small path just off the rose garden, which was normally off limits for those appreciating the garden and only used by those maintaining it. As they dashed down that, the storehouse came into view in front of them. It was quite an old shed, and compared to the flawlessly perfect beauty of the rose garden, it was pretty seedy looking. It was easy to understand why it had been built in a hard to see place. Eva and Hideyoshi arrived at the storehouse long after Cannon and Genji. You sure are fast. My heart was gonna explode.
I never knew they had a storehouse way over here. But, what is that?
When Eva looked where Cannon was pointing, she was at a loss for words. Noticing this, Hideyoshi also followed Cannon's finger and was likewise too shocked to speak. The entrance to the storehouse was a kind of shutter, and there, Everyone suddenly realized why Kanan had been unable to find words to describe what they now saw. On the shutter, which was completely filthy from being exposed to wind and rain for so long, stuck right on it. There was something that looked like a There's something that looked like a strange dark red. Liquid? Mucus? Maybe it was some sticky paint. An indescribably eerie shape was drawn on the shutter with some kind of ghastly substance. The rain had caused it to drip down like fresh blood leaking from an open wound. No more beating around the bush. Some kind of mark was drawn there, with a ghastly substance that looked like blood, in a shape that seemed to suggest something ominous. Two circles were drawn there, and inside them was a design that looked like a cross. The four ends of the cross were widely exaggerated, and it looked like some kind of crest from somewhere around Europe. And in the cracks between these shapes, written closely packed together, were some unfamiliar characters or possibly symbols. What a vulgar bit of graffiti. Could this be one of those? One of those magic circles used in demonic ceremonies? It wasn't surprising that Hideyoshi would say that about such a ghastly shape drawn with a deep red dripping substance.
When was this made? Last night. I came here before it started raining, and there was nothing drawn here at the time.
We must do something before anyone else sees this. If they relied upon it, it would cause them great discomfort.
That's right. Even though it's just a shed, I wouldn't want to leave such an unpleasant piece of graffiti alone for even a second longer than I had to.
There is some paint inside the storehouse. Let us paint over it temporarily as an emergency measure. Then repaint it again someday when the weather is good. Genji remembered that he had just recently seen another scribble, and that it too had been made with a strange dark red substance of the same color as this. That must have been. That's right. He had seen it on the door to Natsuhi's room.
Kanan-kun, let's remove the scribble quickly and go back, okay? Even though it's just a storehouse, it's really irritating to have graffiti around the home I was brought up in. Yes, ma'am. I will take care of it immediately.
Cannon squatted in front of the shutter and unlocked it. He then lifted it up with all of his strength. A boisterous noise resounded, and the eerie shape drawn on the shutter began to get sucked in through the top as the shutter was raised. At least for the time being, the ominous drawing disappeared from the direct gaze. They all breathed a sigh of relief. Thanks to a kids program they came across, Maria was feeling much better. Valor and Jessica were poking fun at the kids show at every turn, cackling together. George was enjoying the program with Maria from her perspective. Nanjo sat on a sofa by himself, passing the time by reading quietly. They heard hurried footsteps coming from the hallway. They were the footsteps of a single person. Did that mean it wasn't the group of four that had just left? It was Genji. It was very rare for Genji, who considered being out of breath a violation of his servant's virtues, to be gasping for air. He had probably come dashing back from outside the mansion. His shoulders were soaking wet, and he didn't have his usual trim appearance. When Genji noticed Nanjo looking at him, he gave a small, silent bow and quickly approached him. Dr. Nanjo, my apologies. Oh, fuck. Please, come with me quickly. What is the matter? As Genji whispered something into Nanjo's ear, Nanjo went pale. He rose from the sofa, trying not to be noticed by the children who were still engrossed by the TV, and two of them rapidly left the parlor, muffling their footsteps. Just as they were about to exit the parlor, they came across Natsui, who was pushing a serving cart loaded with a tea set. Genji whispered something into Natsui's ears, and Natsui went pale, too, in apparent shock. Then, leaving the serving cart where it was, the three of them dashed towards the entrance. George noticed them running down the rose garden through the window. What's that? Isn't that George-san and Dr. Nanjo and that's not Aunt Natsuhi, isn't it? What's up, Anaki? Maybe something happened. You look terribly flustered. How am I gonna keep up this voice? When Jessica and Maria saw that Eva, Hideyoshi, and Nanjo were no longer in their seats, and that the servant cart had been abandoned in the entrance to the parlor, they also realized that something was the matter. Could there have been some kind of accident? Let's go check it out. So fun if we're the only ones left out, right? For some reason, what Butler said sounded extremely indiscreet. But they couldn't deny that they were a little insecure and concerned after seeing the adults run off into the rain without regards to their appearance. Let's check it out, okay? I'm worried something might have happened. Jessica's uneasy words spoke for all of them. Hey, Maria, are you coming too? Or will you watch TV?
I want to watch TV.
Let's go on without her. Maria-chan will be back soon. You keep watching TV, okay?
Mhm.
By the time the kids made it outside, the adults were no longer in sight. But Jessica seemed to have a But Jessica seemed to have a pretty good idea of where they'd gone, judging by the directions they'd been running. Following Jessica, we ran through the rain-soaked rose garden. The wind seemed to suddenly get stronger. The malicious sound of thunder began to ring out like it had the previous night. It felt like an eerie something had surrounded the island, and was trying to stop us from moving forward. Jessica, Jessica, is there something over this way? I'm pretty sure there's a storehouse for gardening tools or something. What in the world could be going on in a place like that? Just as Jessica had said, they began to see a storehouse in front of them. They could also see the adults there. The shutter to the storehouse was open, and several adults looked as though they were searching for something. For some reason, only Natsuhi was outside the storehouse, without even holding an umbrella. She looked like she was hanging her head, and her back was facing them. There was Genji, Nanjo, and Natsui, who had just left the mansion. The ones who'd left earlier, Ken, Eva, and Hideyoshi, were also there, making for a small crowd of people. But there was absolutely no bustle of activity. When Natsui realized that the children were approaching, a terrible expression rose to her face, and she ran at them with her arms spread wide. Mustn't come any closer! Back to the mansion! But despite that, no. Because of that, the kids saw the scene Natsui was trying to keep them away from. Inside the storehouse, with its shutter wide open, a faint fluorescent light shone down. And right there was. Yeah!
That was a good scream.
Yeah.
I can never do that. I'm with my family. Well, I'm in my family's house.
Jessica's piercing shriek rang out. But that was just because Jessica's scream was the loudest. The same thing spilled out of Battler and George's mouths as well. Eva spread her arms just like Natsui, roaring at the kids with a bone-chilling expression on her face.
George, take everyone and return to the mansion. Quickly! Right now!
When Natsui spread her arms, I thought she was trying to prevent us from advancing any further. But that wasn't why Eva was spreading her arms right now. She was trying to stop us kids from seeing that terrible scene. It was her mother's heart trying to protect the eyes and hearts of us children by blocking our view of that terrible scene by at least the width of one of her arms. Some kind of joke? Is it? I've seen this kind of cheap scene all too often. In manga, TV, anime, and movies. I've seen it over and over again. This was just seeing something appear in real life that I'd seen plenty of times before in some of those more sensational movies, right? That alone shouldn't. But that suit, that old bastards, isn't it? I get that. I get it. And that's Uncle Kraus, Kiryu-san, Rosa. Ah! Dad! Dad! You mustn't, Jessica. Mustn't go in. You mustn't look. Dad! Dad! Ah! Rigor mortis has set in across almost the entire body. Most likely, 6 hours or more have passed since death. As far as I can tell by looking at the damaged area. Oh my god, I've been on mute this entire fucking time.
The whole time?
The whole time, the game has been on mute. I haven't been on mute. The game has been on mute.
Oh.
I was like, man, it's so quiet. When's like the music gonna kick in?
Man, this song slaps.
The song does slap, and I feel bad that we missed the fucking lead up. I'm sorry, viewers. As far as I can tell by looking at the damaged area, there's a high probability that they were damaged after their deaths. No, I must watch what I say. I'm a general practitioner. Examining corpses is outside of my area of expertise. What does that mean? Killing them wasn't enough, so they went on to do something like this? Well, this here's the work of the devil! Aunt Natsui caught Jessica in her arms, and Aunt Ava caught George Aniki. So I was the only one who could approach the entrance to the storehouse. If only there had been someone there to catch me too. I wouldn't have needed to see this horrible, evil scene burn into my mind, my eyes. No, that's not it. It isn't that there's no one here to catch me. People who should catch me, they're right there, aren't they? Just as Jessica said, it did look like a storehouse for gardening tools. A lawnmower with extra blades, a grass sickle and a hammer, some carpentry tools such as a saw, held up potted plants and bags of fertilizer, and treated just the same. The corpses of several people had been laid to rest here. No, had been tossed in there. I could tell them by their clothes. That old bastard and Kirie-san, Uncle Kraus and Aunt Rosa. Beyond that, Goda-san. Are there still more of them? Ushiromio Kraus. His corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. The direct cause of death is unknown, but it seems that the side of his head was smashed after his death. This is the beginning of everything. Ushiromio Rudolph. His corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. His face seemed to have been smashed after death. He has a right to lament his ill fortune. Ushiromio Kirie. Her corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. Her face seems to have been smashed after her death. She was chosen by the Demon's Roulette. That's all there is to it. Ushiromio Rosa. Her corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. Her face seems to have been smashed after her death. I'll get to see her again, so I don't feel lonely. Servant Goda. His corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. His face seems to be smashed after death. How unfortunate. Apparently, he was originally supposed to be on duty in the guest house. How many people died? Fucking kidding me! I can't even count them on one hand! Damn it! I didn't know whether it had been one of those gardening tools which, if used for something other than their intended purpose, could definitely be wielded with a naked brutality, or whether some horrible tool had been brought in here specifically for this. Anyway, each one of their bodies jammed in here had been given an atrocious makeup. It wasn't makeup, it was more like faces had been plowed. Faces were smashed, forced into expressions that normal people couldn't make even after death. I couldn't tell where the eyes or the noses were. I could find their mouths because they were gaping wide, their gums exposed. Their front teeth were missing, and even the cheeks that should have covered all this were all torn up and laid bare. That trendy makeup you always spent so much time on, even though your man isn't doing a thing now. I always thought you were going to hell, but still, not like this, right? You weren't such a son of a bitch that you should have suffered so brutally. Kirei-san. Did I tell you to stop going out with this guy? Absolutely no reason for you to end up like this too. No faces. No faces. Damn it, damn it, damn it, damn it. Ah! Listen, you mustn't look anymore. There's no way your mother and father would want you to see them like this. Your mother and your father said you mustn't look anymore. People are supposed to have faces that look like they're sleeping peacefully, right? They had no faces. My dad and Kirei-san have no faces. I don't even know what kind of faces they were wearing when they died. What's wrong with me? Will I have to see these smashed monster-like faces every time I remember them? Just great. I didn't want to remember that old bastard's smug face anyway. Just great, just great! But why even Kirei-san's face? Kirei-san wasn't a crook. Sure, she ticked me off a bit now and then. She was like a cool big sister to me. This is wrong. This is all wrong. At least Uncle Krause has it better, doesn't he? Not his whole face, just a side. At least he's got this half his face left, right? That's still better. That's still better. Ow! Scub filled her ears with the sound of her own screaming, trying to shut out my reckless words. Stop the Battler-kun! This voice is not good. Stop it! Stop it! Nikki! Nikki! Ah! Regarding age and appearance, I fell to my knees, clinging to Aniki's waist and sobbing. It was as if I was crying on behalf of everyone there. Representing the feelings of everyone there, I screamed over and over. Father, the ones lying over there, Uncle Kraus, Uncle Rudolph, Aunt Kyrie, and Aunt Rosa, and Agoda-san. Just those 5, right? No. There are 6 people. There's one more person over here. The body Hideyoshi was looking down on now happened to be hidden among the shadows in that mountain range of objects, in a blind spot to George who stood by the entrance. So George couldn't tell whose body it was. So, George cursed himself. He cursed the fact that his worst guesses always turned out to be right. So, the one lying at your feet is Shannon, isn't it? Yes. It's Shannon-chan. Servant Shannon. Her corpse was found inside the Rose Garden storehouse. It seems the side of her head was smashed after her death. Don't worry. Everyone will be revived in the Golden Land. George fell completely silent. He shook slightly, his lower lip trembling. Normally, he would have wanted to run to his beloved's body screaming and crying. However, before rashly rushing forward, he worked to keep his composure and asked his father. Is that the same as Uncle Kraus and the others? Hideyoshi deeply understood the meaning of those words, so he couldn't give George an immediate answer. Rather, he felt that silence was the only sincere and loving response he could give George right now. When George asked if Shannon was the same, he meant to ask whether her corpse was in the same condition as the others were not. Since Hideyoshi hadn't denied it, it meant her corpse was in the same brutal state. Can I look at Shannon? No, you can't. Why not? After all, I won't be able to see Shannon's face again, right? So, why won't you let me see what her face looked like at the end? The last time you met Shannon was yesterday, right? Yes. I see. When you left her, what kind of face was she showing you? It was a wonderful smile. After he handed her the ring, she hesitated, even though she must have already made up her mind. Then she looked bashful. and ran away because she was embarrassed to let him see her face looking like that. That's the expression that was revived in George's mind. I see. Then I'm sure Jan would want to leave you with that smile in your memory. Hideyoshi looked down upon Shannon's body lying at his feet. Just like the other bodies, it was in such a horrible state that it'd make anyone want to cover their eyes. Her head had been smashed in from the side, and no more than half of her expression remained. If the remaining blood-soaked half of her expression had been wiped clean, would that graceful smile of hers have peeked out? But only half of it. Without thinking, Hideyoshi slapped his hands over his eyes. How brutal. If her face was going to be crushed anyway, and if only all of it had been crushed. He might have been able to temporarily distract George from his pain by making the pathetic suggestion that it was someone else wearing Shannon's clothes. But half of her face had been left untouched. It caused the body so much humiliation, while still proving beyond doubt that the body was Shannon's and no one else's. How inhuman, how brutish. And there, trying his best to burn the image of the remaining half of Shannon's expression into his eyes as she lay at Hideyoshi's feet, was Cannon. Cannon was not crying. Tears had risen to his eyes, but they did not drip down. But that didn't mean he wasn't feeling as much sadness as everyone else. Losing Shannon, who had lived with him in the same orphanage, whom he had loved as a sister, must have been just the same as losing a blood relative. George, I'm sure Shannon's saying thank you. She must be glad you didn't end up seeing her in such a pitiful state. I'm sure she's thanking you for holding strong and showing restraint. I understand. I understand, Father. I understand. George leaned against the outside wall of the storehouse, crouching down limply. Father, I have a request. What is it? I want you to look for me. Is there a ring on Shannon's finger? A ring? Let me see. Hideyoshi crouched down. As he did, Cannon silently pointed to one of Shannon's hands. Yeah, there is. A diamond ring. Valuable diamond. Must have been pretty expensive. And which hand? And which finger is it on? The ring finger of her left hand. I see. Shannon-chan was engaged.
George, don't tell me you...
Now the fucking time. Come on. It doesn't matter now. A man made a lifelong promise to Shannon-chan. A man promised her happiness for life. Who that man was isn't the issue here. Being told by that by a man is a woman's dream, isn't it? I don't know when she received this ring. I also don't know who gave it to her. However, even so, Shannon-chan took this ring. Then, she accepted it and put it on her left ring finger. I'm sure the man who gave it to her was also happy. I don't know if I'm just not doing great emotionally right now, or I'm getting way too into the doing voices for this, but I'm crying.
Yeah, I don't know, I mean...
Like, I have tears in my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, this is a pretty fucked up part of the game.
Yeah. Most of the people there. Hideyoshi was simply disturbed by this extraordinary situation and was blurting out nonsense. However, someone who knew of George and Shannon's true relationship would understand the full meaning of those words. I see. Thank you, Father. George stood up. The traces of tears still streaked his face, but his expression had returned to his usual calm one. Let's go, Father-kun, Jessica-chan. If you stay here any longer, we'll get in the way of the adults. You're right. You're right. Fuck. You're right. Jessica sniffled once, showing her face to her mother, who had been holding her the whole time to let her know she was okay now. When she faced George again, she once again had on her usual expression, although she still couldn't smile. Battler, hang in there. Battler kept on crouching in front of his parents' bodies. I'm sorry. Crying like hell calmed me down. Bastard, Dad, I bet you're laughing at me. After all that shit I talked about you, here I am crying like a baby just because you died. Well, so what? I guess I just got the gene that makes you cry when your parents kick the bucket.
It's one of the silliest things to say ever.
Battler's face was still bright red from the tears, but he at least recovered enough to fake a smile, if only a better one. Cannon, you mustn't remain here any longer either. Take the children and return to the mansion. Natsui had been standing under the rain this whole time, unable to take a step into the storehouse. Maybe she had her own way of grieving, different from Battler's. Realizing that she had to take on a role of responsibility now that her husband was dead, she gave Cannon those orders.
Yes, madam.
Cannon rose silently and turned to face me. His face was pure white, almost as though his own heart had died along with Shannon, and there was no life in his expression. On an ordinary day, if he had been told to guide the children through the beautiful rose garden, Cannon might have led the way. But now, there was no distinction between Cannon and the children. They were now just kids of about the same age, suffering the pain of losing those close to them. After making sure that the children were leaving, Natsui started giving orders to Genji. Genji, contact the police immediately. They probably won't be able to come until the typhoon passes, but they should be able to tell us what to do next. Understood. There is an emergency radio, so I will use that to contact them. When she heard that, Natsui remembered. Right. The phones were out today, weren't they? However, they also had a radio. They couldn't necessarily rely on phones all the time while living on an isolated island. At any rate, they should start by contacting the police and receiving their instructions. Everything else could wait. Dr. Nanjo, is there anything more you can do here? Unfortunately, there's nothing I can do. Understood. Genji, could you at least cover their faces with something? Exposing them like this is humiliating to them as well. Yes, ma'am. Genji picked up several dry towels from inside the storehouse, when Ava stopped him with a shrill voice.
Wait a second. Stop. This is the scene of the crime, isn't it? Then we mustn't disturb it. We all panicked and walked in here with our shoes on, but even that will surely get in the way of the police's investigation, right?
Natsui glared at Ava, offended. Objectively speaking, Ava was right. Even so, she glared at Ava as though accusing her of refusing to do those tragic corpses, which had been humiliated even after death, the simple kindness of covering their faces. However, Ava had spoken both calmly and correctly. This horrible situation definitely wasn't an accident. It was a crime. Someone had killed them. It was a murder case. So they needed to be careful to avoid disturbing the site any further. They had to do what little they could to aid the police, preserving clues that might help catch the detestable culprit. I agree with Ava-san. Till the police come, we could leave everything be. What do you say, madame? You're right. Very well. Close it up. Just in case, we should put a different lock on it. Different lock? Yes. We came here, the shutter was locked. That means the culprit used the key to shut the shutter to lock it. That makes sense. Does that mean the key that opens the shutter will have the culprit's fingerprints on it?
I'm sure it'll be worth submitting it to the police as evidence. But Kanan-kun usually has it, and he used it to unlock the shed just now. It'll probably have Kennen's fingerprints on it. Also, that key was handed to Genji-san just now, and he took it with his bare hands. It doesn't look like it'll be very useful as evidence.
That was careless of me. My apologies. Genji-san, are there any other keys to the storehouse? No, only this one. So Colbert walked out of the servant room with that key, and then was nice enough to return the key to where they found it. Hideyoshi's theory sounded plausible, but was actually very strange if you thought about it. Why would they go to all the trouble of returning the key they stole? No, if you think about it even more deeply, there are some points that are even more bizarre. When a criminal hides a body, they're usually trying to delay the point at which it'll be found so they can use that time to escape. The six weren't necessarily killed here, but it was reasonable to assume that they were killed somewhere else, somewhere on this island, carried to the storehouse and hidden to delay the discovery of the crime. And yet, the eerie magic circle scribbled on the storehouse shutter had eloquently indicated the location of the hidden corpses. Sure, it didn't explicitly mention the corpses, but 6 people had gone missing. In fact, in that situation, someone had made such an obvious piece of graffiti and even returned the key to the shutter, almost as though they wanted the corpses here to be discovered. Anyway, we can't put all of our faith in a lock that the culprit has opened once before. If you want to protect the place from the culprit's hands, I think we should put a new lock on it. I think that is a good plan. I agree. Genji fished around inside the storehouse and unsealed a brand new padlock that had been inside a small box. What should I do with the key? I will take it. I will take responsibility and hand it over to the police. Natsui took the key to the padlock from Genji's hand. After that, they all exited and lowered the shutter. And so, corpses were once again sealed behind that shutter, which was still covered with that creepy magic circle. Genji crouched down in front of the shutter to fasten the new padlock. Shutters often have a place in front where you can attach your own lock in addition to the main lock of the shutter. This was one of those types. In the midst of the roar of thunder and the pouring rain, the storehouse stood there ominously. With its closed shutter that's still covered in a blood-like creepy substance, it swallowed up the bodies of the 6. To Natsuhi, putting the new lock on wasn't mainly to preserve the scene for the police. She might have felt like she wanted to shut that mouth for all eternity, to prevent that eerie beast from swallowing up any more victims. Come on, let's go, everyone. Dr. Nanjo, thank you very much for your work. Genji, hurry and contact the police. I will do so as soon as I return. The adults left the storehouse. The ghastly magic circle drawn on the shutter kept the 6 bodies in its throat, looming eerily as the lightning occasionally lit it up. And I think we're gonna end it there.
Yeah, I gotta pee.
A bit of a shorter one today, I know, but I feel like I just think that's a great spot to end it.
Yeah, it'll have to be another half hour longer if we continue it any further, probably.
Yeah. And come on, do the system. Save. God damn it.
Who's breaking all that glass?
Someone's gonna have to clean that up, and we're down 2 servants.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us for Umineko. Shit's gonna get real fast from now on.
Oh yeah, and it's gonna get really real.
Alright. Hope you join us for next time. Goodbye.
Make sure to like and subscribe.
Yeah, like
Bye.
and subscribe!